All right. Welcome back to Fetus Adventures.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Today's episode, we're going to talk about how we made it to Colorado. And we had a cool Hipcamp experience.
Yeah.
And Charlie changed the RV oil all by himself.
Yes.
Success. Nothing blew up. You did excellent. And what else? Oh, we did a super awesome hike at the Colorado National Monument.
By ourselves.
No children.
Had a date hike.
Date hike. Okay, we're going to talk about Hipcamp because you need to know about Hipcamp. Hipcamp, because we're hip and we camp.
I think we're far from hip.
But no, Hipcamp is super cool for a couple reasons. First reason being reservations at national parks and state parks are really hard to come by if you're trying to plan like a couple weeks or even a couple months in advance.
Some of them you have to plan a year out.
A year.
Or you're not getting in.
And I do our planning. I'm not a planny person. And I am certainly not the type of person that can plan a whole year in advance. It's just not me. So.
Too committing.
Yeah, commitment is so scary. So we have found that Hipcamp is super helpful in that regard because all it is people with private property, I guess, yeah, who open it up to campers, tent campers, RV campers, car campers, van campers, all the campers.
Yeah.
And there's an app, and it's super easy. You put in your dates, you put in what you're camping in, tent, RV, whatever, if you have pets, and then you put in your location where you're looking to camp, and a whole bunch of them pop up. And some of them are super cheap, like $10 a night, $5 a night, until you get into some of the more popular areas, and then they get up to 30, 40, 100, whatever. So we were visiting my mom in Colorado, and it was awesome. And we stayed with her for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we parked the RV in the driveway, and we stayed with them for a week, kind of half in the RV, half in the house, and it was wonderful. But after about a week of being in other people's space and kind of having our stuff spread out, we have learned after a year and a half of this and visiting family and friends all over the country that it is kind of tough to do the driveway camping. And it's funny, like, I didn't know that or have any inkling of that. And then when I mentioned it in an RV community, like, Facebook page, everybody chimed in like, oh, yeah, no, mooch docking is not the way to go. That's what you call it when you camp in somebody's driveway, mooch docking. So apparently this is a thing that people know. I did not know this. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But sleeping in people's driveway, max maybe,
a week.
5 days, I would say.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we were like, let's give them some space. Let's get into our groove. Let's go find a place to camp. Well, where we were, there was a handful of private campgrounds, a handful of state parks. Even the National Monument has camping. But we wanted to be somewhere where we could kind of spread out and not have to move every few days. So we found Hipcamp, and we found this awesome one, Mike's Hipcamp, and it was actually in Palisade, Colorado, which is right outside of Grand Junction.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where they grow all the peaches.
Yeah, and it was awesome for a couple reasons. One, because it was super laid back. We had a ton of space. It was still close enough where we could go hang out with my mom daily, and we loved it. Second reason it was awesome is near and dear to my heart because it was very similar to my father's home in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Big old house on a pond, and Mike is super friendly and happy to talk and has lots of cool stuff that he's more than happy to share.
And he's a project guy.
And he loves projects. Just real similar to my dad. So it felt real good. My dad's been gone now for 2.5 years. So it was super cool. But the spot was amazing.
Yeah. And it had all kind of stuff. He provided you with unlimited firewood. He has a disc golf basket scattered around so you can move them around, make a course, put one at your campsite. They have a big lake where they scuba dive.
Yeah, he's got like scuba diving stuff.
Yeah.
There was paddle boards and kayaks and canoes, and he was more than happy to share it all. He had chickens that he would bring you a dozen eggs. He let our kids like come help out. It's super cool, these hip camps, because you really connect with people and kind of become part of a community. That's what I like about it, because we've kind of been missing that a little bit this past year and a half, like not a whole lot of interaction with people outside of our family and friend current base, you know.
Right.
So that was super neat, and I would like to keep using the hip camps, if only for the community aspect, I think.
Yeah.
So when we're in Grand Junction, we are super lucky that my mom lives there. So we get lots of time with her and my stepdad. And that comes with the perk of a date night.
Babysitter.
Right? And it got paired with a date morning hike this time.
Those are the best.
So we got to go out to eat. We got to go grocery shopping without kids.
Big date.
And then in the morning, we got up super early and went for a hike at the Colorado National Monument.
Date hike.
Right? Like,
2022.
right? I feel like date night is a whole different thing these days. Like, we went grocery shopping. We did go out to eat first last night.
Ready? You ready? Let's go. So we finally got to a place that we could do the oil change. We've been on the road a little over a year and a half, and we're on our third oil change, and we change it every 10,000 miles in this RV. My dad did it the first year because I had a broken elbow, and I was his assistant the second year. And now for the third year, I'm out on my own in Colorado. He's back in North Carolina. We've got Carissa's mom's driveway that we could do the oil change, so I was able to change the oil, change the fuel filter, and put in a new turbo resonator gasket, whatever that is.
Fancy.
Fancy. A problem that we had in Texas that we were able to limp along.
Yeah.
And they said, we're changing these now, so I got to change that. And if you're looking at changing things like the oil in your RV or doing projects on your RV and you're a little bit nervous, don't be nervous. Like, you're going to mess something up. That's the best thing that I can come up with, is going into a project, taking pictures, watching YouTube videos, asking people lots of questions, and then really just getting into it. Once you get into it, you're okay. And you might break a piece or drop something, not have what you need, but until you take that first step in learning it, it's not going to happen. So I was able to do it with the oil change this time, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, he did really well. He was a little bit nervous, but
I'm like scared I'm going to be stranded on the driveway calling a tow truck. Can you tow this 10,000-pound RV because I couldn't get the oil change right?
Well, the RV didn't blow up. We have now driven
pretty
around,
good.
and it's all right.
I keep checking for leaks.
Yeah, so it's good.
Yeah. So do stuff on your own. Be confident. You can do it.
Yeah, and there's so many YouTube videos out there that can show you how to do stuff and give you tips and really help like build your confidence. I think that's kind of how you've gotten to this place, right? It's like watching other people do this. It gives you a better perspective. Yeah.
I had a gentleman named John asking me about the Bigfoot leveling system that I put on, and I'm considering putting up actual how-to videos of how to install solar, Bigfoot levelers, change the oil. So if you guys want to see stuff like that, let me know. I always have a list of projects. I got to work on the shower next. I got to change a solenoid. So if those are things that you guys want to see and learn, I'll put videos together so you can do that. Let me know in the comments.
Looks like you got everything you need here.
Yeah. This was the part that separated, the pipes separated, and we lost all power to the engine. We were driving to Big Bend, Texas, the national park, and we were going down the highway, and all of a sudden it went whoosh. And I just like went from 60 to 50 to 40. I had no power. Pulled it over on the side of the road, called my brother-in-law, and we talked through it, and he said, you know, it's got to be fuel or air or something simple like that. And so I found this separated, and I was able to zip tie like a spacer here to keep it kind of closed, and we limped it along. How fast did we go? 50 miles an hour?
Yeah.
I mean, we went 400 miles pretty slow just to make sure we got there, and took it to Mercedes in El Paso, and they checked it, and they said, nope, it's good.
Whatever you did worked.
Whatever you did worked. So recently at Mercedes, they recommended that they're changing these out for every oil change that they're doing. I think they're having issues. Maybe it's disintegrating and then going into the turbo. So if you have the chance, it's $60, but if it's going to go bad on you, go ahead and change it. This is my first time taking the oil drain plug out of something. Literally. I've never changed the oil by myself in a car.
Here it comes.
Sweet. Okay. So a good tip I learned over the past decade is to take pictures of everything before you take it apart, because if you forget how it goes back together, you've got a picture. Okay, so here's that gasket we're replacing. Pretty flawless, except for we got a little crack right there. So we'll put in a new one. Easy breezy.
It's good to have a dad who knows stuff.
Yep. He's always saying, don't drop the screw. Don't drop it in the engine. You know what I did today? I dropped one. But I pulled the magnet on a stick trick, and that got it. So now I know the feeling, Dad. Working on your car, you drop something you didn't mean to. Not fun. I'm putting everything back together. So I got the fuel filter out and in. Didn't break anything, and I'm gonna tighten that back down with my homemade T30 Torx bit. I didn't want it to drop in the engine. Gotta put the turbo back together. I was able to get the gasket changed on that, and I gotta like seat that back together, change the oil filter, and then if we go down, I've got the oil. It's pretty much drained now, and I'll need to put the plug back in with the new gasket and make sure everything's done, and then put 13 quarts of oil in. So, if I didn't do this, my wife would certainly come out and change the oil and the fuel filter and all that stuff.
Definitely. I would definitely do that.
New gasket, oil plug. That's pretty good.
In the mini funnel.
Mini funnel, it's all right.
Work with what you got.
Well, when you used to pour climbing holds for a living, you get pretty good at pouring. All right, so we're dead in the middle of those marks. You see there's a min for oil level and a max for oil level. And this 12 is right there in the middle. I don't know why. It says the capacity is 13.2, but we put in 13.2 the first time and it didn't like that. So we had to get some out. So I think we're gonna leave it where it is. It's fun figuring it out though.
You always do.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes you forget how good you are at figuring stuff out.
Yeah, but most of the time it comes with breaking things or doing it wrong.
Well, that's part of learning.
I guess.
You didn't go to school to be a mechanic. You're learning.
Yeah. I'd prefer to just do it right the first time.
I bet you would, Mr. Perfectionist. All right, now what?
So now I'm going to go crank it up, and I have to remind myself that the fuel filter is new, so it has no diesel in it. So if you go in there and crank the key, nothing's going to happen. It's going to turn and turn and turn, but it has no fuel. So this time I'm going to remember to turn the key in the on position maybe for 30 seconds, and then we'll try and crank it up. Let's see. A lot of beeps that happen in this thing. That's the no seat belt. That's the levelers are down. The check engine light comes on. It's very stressful sometimes. So you want to check for leaks, see if you see anything, grab a rag.
Are you resetting the computer? What are you doing?
Not currently. I will.
Okay.
I'll have to YouTube that.
Simple foods. Big adventures.